Something strange happened the other day, and I can't get it out of my head. My best friend walked into my dorm room and caught me in a moment I'll never forget. If you've ever lived in a dorm, you know, privacy is more of a dream than a reality. You think you're alone, finally able to breathe after a long, exhausting day, and then life decides to mess with you. My roommate and best friend, Alex, is the kind of guy who never texts before showing up. He crashes in my room whenever he feels like it, and acts like he owns the place. We've been roommates since freshman year, so by now I thought we knew everything about each other. Our habits, our routines, our quirks. It all started on a Tuesday, one that felt completely normal. Alex told me he'd be out all evening, first giving a lecture, then meeting up with his study group. He even left earlier than usual, slinging his bag over his shoulder like he meant business. So naturally it figured I had the whole dorm to myself. I decided to relax. Really relax. I kicked off my clothes, kept my socks on, dimmed the lights, and turned the music off. Nothing weird about it. I just wanted a little peace. The quiet hum of the fan, the softness of the sheets, the cool air against my skin. For once, I felt free. I lay back on my bed, phone in hand, scrolling through memes and playlists, completely at ease. I was sure I'd locked the door. Outside, I could hear laughter in the hallway, the usual dorm noise, nothing out of the ordinary. Then I heard it, a faint jingle of keys, a soft click. I figured it was someone next door and ignored it. But then the door handle turned. Before I could react, the door swung open, flooding the room with light. And there stood Alex halfway through saying something, but I couldn't even process the words. I was frozen, completely naked. We both just stood there, him in the doorway, one foot inside, eyes wide, mouth slightly open like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Time stopped. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. Every nerve in my body felt like it was on fire. I stared at him. He stared at me. No one moved. No one spoke. He blinked first, then muttered, "I'm sorry," but his voice wasn't steady. I scrambled for the blanket, hands fumbling like they'd forgotten how to work. My heart was racing so fast it barely felt real. "You said you'd be gone all night," I blurted out, my voice higher than I meant it to be. Alex just stood there looking completely thrown off. "This study group got canceled," he said, defensive, not angry, still glancing around like he'd stumbled into the wrong room. "I texted you." I said, "Do not disturb." I snapped, clutching the blanket tighter. He quietly shut the door behind him, leaning against it like the weight of the moment had just hit him. His arms crossed, his face unreadable. "I didn't expect," he started, then stopped mid-sentence. "What?" I asked, trying to sound calm, even though my pulse was still out of control. He rubbed the back of his neck. Cheeks flushed redder than I'd ever seen them then. Out of nowhere, we both laughed. Awkward, nervous, but real. It wasn't mocking. It was just relief. Alex finally moved slow and careful, like he thought I might throw something at him. He sat down on the edge of his bed and sighed. "I should have knocked. Yeah, you really should have," I whispered, still buried under the blanket. There was a pause. Then hesked quietly, "Is this something you always do when I'm gone?" "Yeah," I said without hesitation. He nodded slowly, piecing it together. Didn't expect to walk in on a full moon, though. I rolled my eyes. "I'm getting a deadbolt." "Smart," he said with a grin, but then Heist's expression softened. "Hey, I really am sorry if I made you uncomfortable," and this time he wasn't joking. His tone was gentle, sincere. "I'm okay," I said quietly. He looked at me for a long moment, longer than I expected, then finally said, "Yeah, me too." But something in his voice caught me off guard. It wasn't just embarrassment I'd seen in his eyes when he walked in. Maybe it was something else. Something neither of us had words for. And the truth is, as much as I was shocked, part of me didn't mind being seen. Not just physically, but really seen. That thought scared me more than anything. I shifted under the blanket, cleared my throat. "Next time you change plans, maybe send a warning." He smiled, but there was something different in his eyes now. Something unspoken. "Next time," he said, but he didn't leave. Didn't pack up. Didn't pretend things were normal again. He stayed where he was, elbows on his knees, watching me from across the room. His gaze flickered, quick glances, then away like he couldn't help himself. I stayed wrapped in the blanket as if it could protect me from what had just happened. But deep down, I knew it wasn't the nudity that shook me. It was being seen, really seen by him. He broke the silence first. "It's not like I've never seen you shirtless before." I raised an eyebrow. "Yeah, shirtless is a little different from totally naked." He chuckled softly, not mocking, just real. Then his eyes met mine again. And this time he didn't look away. "I didn't mean to," he said quietly. "But now I can't unsee it. Not just your body, the look on your face, the way you were just being." I held his gaze, hoping he wasn't weirded out. Hoping I wasn't either. "Do you usually feel that free when you're alone?" he asked, voice lower now, thoughtful, not teasing. The question caught me off guard. It wasn't casual. It wasn't judgmental. It felt honest, like he was trying to understand something, trying to understand me. I hesitated, unsure how to answer without crossing some invisible line between us. Finally, I said, "Sometimes it just feels good to stop pretending for armament." Alex relaxed slightly, lowering his hands. His usual calm, distant self returned, but something had changed. I could feel it. When he first walked in, there was something in his eyes I couldn't forget. Something raw, unfiltered. It made my chest tighten, but I didn't ask about it. Not then. Instead, I tried to lighten the mood. I ran a hand through my hair, pretending I was calm. "Well," I said, "we've officially reached a new level in our roommate relationship. Congratulations. You've seen everything." Alex gave a crooked grin, his eyes glinting again. "I'm adding it to my resume," he joked. I laughed, surprised at how natural it sounded. The tension cracked just a little, but it didn't disappear. If anything, the humor only highlighted what we weren't saying. "Sorry if I came off weird," I murmured. He glanced at me again, voice quieter now. "It's already strange," he said softly, and somehow that honesty made the silence between us feel even heavier. He raised an eyebrow like he could tell I was holding something back. I stared up at the ceiling, trying to find the right words. "I don't know," I muttered. "Maybe I just need a break." "You're not the only one," he said after a moment, his voice steady but softer than usual. "It's exhausting sometimes feeling like I always have to be this version of myself that everyone expects, cool, confident, unshakable. But if I slip even a little, people start asking questions." Something in the way he said it made me go still. There was a shift in the air, subtle but impossible to ignore. I looked over at him, surprised. Alex didn't usually talk like this. When things got heavy, he'd cover it up with jokes or caffeine. He wasn't the type to open up. "People asked questions," I said, half joking. "Not directly," he replied, a faint smile tugging at his lips, but especially when we were roommates. "You can feel it sometimes, the things people don't say." The room felt smaller then, even though neither of us had moved. I shifted slightly, and the blanket slipped down a little. His eyes flicked toward it, then quickly away, but not fast enough. Our gazes met. This time, neither of us looked away. There was something electric in the silence. Not tension exactly, something deeper, quieter, more dangerous. "I should probably put something on," I said. But I didn't move. He didn't either. We stayed like that, the quiet between us growing heavier, more alive. It wasn't awkward. It was charged like the air before a storm, and that terrified me more than the embarrassment from before, because this wasn't about being caught. This was about what came next. Alex leaned back, folding his arms behind his head. He looked relaxed, but his jaw was tight. "You ever think about what people don't say?" he asked suddenly. I blinked. "What do you mean?" "Sometimes," he said slowly, "I think silence says more than words ever could. We dance around the feelings we already share just because we're too scared to name them." His words hit me hard like sparks catching dry ground. My throat felt tight. Were we talking about the same thing? The easy grin he usually wore was gone. Beneath that calm voice, there was something deliberate, something waiting. I swallowed, choosing my words carefully. "Then maybe we shouldn't ignore it." Whatever this is, he didn't react right away, just held my gaze, his eyes unreadable. Then slowly he nodded. The way he said it, it wasn't casual. It meant something. A step onto fragile ground, a line that once crossed we couldn't return from. In that stillness, something between us shifted. We hadn't moved, but the air had changed completely. I adjusted the blanket, not to cover myself, but to keep my hands still. Across from me, Alex sat exactly as he was, eyes sharp and steady, watching. I cleared my throat. "Are we actually talking about this or just circling around it?" He exhaled softly. It might have been a laugh, but it wasn't. "Maybe both," he said. There was no playfulness now, only honesty. It caught me off guard, that openness. He never let anyone see that side of him. "I didn't mean to catch you off guard," headed quietly. "I wasn't trying to sneak up on you." "It's fine," I said, my voice lower than I intended. But it didn't feel like just an accident. It felt like something else. He nodded slowly. "It was just seeing you like that. It wasn't about, being naked. You weren't just uncovered. You were unguarded." His words landed deeper than an X. I expected. Is that a bad thing? Riskit, he shook his head. No, Justrare. He looked down for a moment, then met my eyes again, heavier now, High's expression softer but intent. Have you ever felt like we've been dodging something? Laughing too hard, looking too long, not saying what we already know. His confession filled the room like the air before rain, thick, electric, waiting. I shifted slightly, the blanket slipping lower. His eyes flicked down, then back up to meet mine, a hint of tension in his throat as he swallowed hard. I don't know what this is, he said finally. I just know I feel it like it's in my bones. What are we supposed to do about it? I asked, voice barely above a whisper. He didn't answer right away, just held my gaze, then repeated softly, What do we do about it? And this time, I understood. I nodded, my heartbeat echoing in my ears. We couldn't pretend anymore. He stood slowly, like every step meant something. Crossing the space between us, he stopped at the foot of my bed. The desk lamp cast a warm glow across his face, shadows trailing along the edge of my blanket. The air buzzed, alive, dangerous, beautiful. Are we ready to fall? He asked, voice low, rough with something real. I nodded. Words wouldn't have been enough. He sat beside me. The mattress dipped beneath his weight, and I felt the space between us disappear, gravity pulling us closer in a quiet, inevitable way. His presence radiated warmth, steady and grounding. My fingers twitched, but I didn't move. Not from fear of rejection, but from knowing how much this moment might change everything. Then his hand brushed lightly against mine. He hesitated, waiting. I shifted just enough to let my hand find his. You sure? He asked, voice barely a whisper. No, I breathed. But I want to be. And somehow that truth was enough. We didn't move closer. We didn't need to. Just that our hands lightly touching changed everything. In his eyes, I saw it all. Confusion, curiosity, fear, hope. And for the first time, neither of us pulled away. The tension between us felt alive, humming in the air like static before a storm. His thumb brushed softly against my hand, slow and uncertain, but enough to make every nerve in my body spark to life. I wasn't even sure if I was breathing, and if I was, it didn't feel like enough. The silence that had once felt heavy now pulsed with something new. Anticipation. It was like the whole room was holding its breath, waiting for one of us to move, to speak, to do anything that would break the fragile balance. Alex turned his head slightly, and I felt his gaze before I met it. His eyes weren't playful or guarded anymore. They searched me like he was trying to read something true beneath my skin. When I didn't pull away, when I let our fingers stay tangled, a small smile touched his lips. It wasn't smug. It was relief, quiet and real. Like something inside him had finally clicked into place. I don't know what happens if we cross this line, he said softly, but I know I can't keep pretending this means nothing. His words hit hard, not because they were dramatic, but because they were true. I'd carried so much silence inside me for so long, I'd almost forgotten what honesty sounded like. And now, standing at the edge of something uncertain, something terrifying but real, I finally turned to him. The blanket slipped slightly from me shoulder, but I didn't care. He noticed. His eyes flicked down for a heartbeat, then came back to mine, filled with something unspoken and steady. Have you thought about it before? I asked quietly. Not just tonight. I mean us, he took his time answering. Not because he didn't know, but because he wanted to say it right. Yeah, he said finally. I have, but not in a way that made sense. You were the one thing I kept trying not to want. That line landed differently, not like a confession, like a truth he'd been afraid to hope for. I let the quiet settle between us again, but this time it wasn't fear holding me still. I just didn't want to break the moment. When I looked into his eyes, I didn't see confusion anymore. I saw nerves, sure, but also clarity. You're not just experimenting, right? I asked, my voice barely steady. Henry sat a little straighter, his voice steady but low. I've been trying to figure this out for a while, he said. Maybe I don't have all the answers yet, but I know I don't want to spend my life wondering what if. Something in those words grounded me. I moved closer just enough that our knees touched. The warmth of that small contact seemed to quiet everything else around us. Our breaths matched, slow, cautious, real. He looked down at our joined hands and gave a faint, nervous smile. You're shaking, he murmured. So are you, I whispered back. That simple truth connected us more than anything else could. He raised a hand, hesitating, before letting his fingers trace the edge of my jaw. I leaned into the touch, answering him without words. His thumb brushed softly against my cheek, and the room seemed to narrow until it was only him, only us. "I keep thinking," he said quietly, "that tone kiss could change everything." My heart caught. I didn't trust my voice, so I just breathed his name. He leaned in slowly, his forehead resting against mine. The world stilled. "Tell me if you want to stop," he whispered. "I don't," I said, barely louder than a breath. When our lips met, it wasn't rushed or uncertain. It was careful, full of all the things we've been too afraid to say. It wasn't just a kiss. It was understanding. It was permission. It was a promise that whatever this was, we were finally brave enough to face it. He pulled back just slightly, his eyes searching mine. "Is this okay?" He nodded. "It's more than okay," I said softly. "I've wanted this for so long." His expression softened into something that looked like relief, like home. Hesme led then, a quiet, trembling kind of smile, and in that moment, I knew there was no going back. Whatever came next, we'd cross the line together. He hesitated for a heartbeat, then leaned closer, his breath brushing against my skin. The world seemed to shrink until it was only him and me. The warmth between us, the unspoken pull neither of us could fight anymore. He steadied himself, guiding me back gently, his hand lingering like he was memorizing every moment. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it echoed through the quiet room. He searched my face once more, silently, asking if this was okay. I nodded, barely breathing, and the tension broke like a tide finally coming home. The space between us disappeared. His touch was careful, reverent, not rushed, not uncertain, just real. There was something grounding in it, something that felt more like trust than anything else. He whispered something soft, almost a confession, and I found myself smiling through the rush of emotion. We were no longer pretending. Every breath, every glance said more than words ever could. The night didn't feel wild or forbidden. It felt inevitable, like something that had been waiting quietly, patiently for us to finally be brave enough to let it exist. It was overwhelming in a way that made me want to disappear into the moment completely. When he looked at me again, there was something soft in his eyes, something that broke me open. This wasn't about curiosity anymore. He wasn't here to experiment or just feel something new. He was here because he couldn't stay away, like some invisible pull had been drawing us together 4 years, and now we'd finally stopped fighting it. He reached out, his hands gentle against my face, and our lips met again. This time full of intention, like he meant every heartbeat of it. I felt tears rise without warning. Then everything went still. No words, just the sound of our breathing, the rhythm of our hearts, and the quiet calm of two people. Finally letting go. There was nothing to prove, nothing to hide, just peace. It felt like falling, but not in a way that hurt. More like falling into something we both needed without realizing it. We held on to each other as the moment faded. Our hearts racing, something inside me shifting, not broken, but changed in a way that left me breathless. The next morning, everything felt aligned. Golden light filtered through the blinds and stretched across Alex's back. I lay there watching him sleep, his breathing calm, his lips slightly parted. He looked peaceful, and in that moment, I knew this wasn't a dream or some late-night mistake. He had come to the edge with me, and neither of us wanted to turn back. I moved carefully, trying not to wake him, but his eyes fluttered open. Sleepy and soft, he smiled, that shy, slow smile that made my chest tighten. "Hey," he said, his voice rough with sleep. "Hey," I whispered back. He stretched, then pulled me close like he'd been doing it forever, and maybe in that moment it was exactly where we were meant to be. "I have no idea what time it is," he murmured. "It doesn't matter," I said, and I meant it. We lay there quietly, still wrapped under the same blanket in our small college room. I half expected reality to come crashing in to feel the confusion, regret, or panic about what this meant, but none of it came. Instead, there was a strange stillness, like the world had paused just long enough for us to breathe. "I meant everything I said last night," he said softly. None of it was just in the moment. My heart thudded. "Are you sure?" I asked. He nodded. "I don't know where this goes, but I know I don't want to pretend it didn't happen." Relief hit me so fast it almost knocked me over. "Me either," I said. He smiled, leaned in, and kissed me gently, like sealing something quietly between us. Then hearsted his forehead against mine and whispered, "We'll figure it out." There were still so many things left unsaid about us, about what this meant for our friendship, for our future, but none of it scared me anymore. His fingers found mine fitting perfectly, like they always had. I could have stayed like that forever, just existing beside him while the world outside kept turning. When I stepped outside later, everything felt different. We weren't just best friends anymore, but we weren't defined by labels either. We were something in between, something real, something worth building on. I hadn't expected any of this. Last night before I fell asleep, I thought maybe I'd made a mistake. Maybe I'd ruined the most important friendship of my life, but waking up didn't feel like ruin. It felt like beginning. Still, I don't know where this is going. I want to believe his words are real. I don't believe him, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't scared. I overthink everything. I panic. I don't always know how to let myself just be. So, here I am, still wondering, should I bring it up again? Try to define it, set rules, or should I just breathe, go with it, and let whatever's meant to happen unfold naturally? What would you do if you were me? Thank you for staying till the end. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to True Gay Tales for more heartfelt stories.